Welcome to the Tech Panel.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The podcast where tech minds meet.
Oh, hey, before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell.
Welcome back to the Tech Panel, where we dive into the latest innovations, trends, and game changers shaping the world of business technology. We're your hosts. I'm Arvin.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're diving into the hard truths of scaling, decision-making, and navigating the evolving landscapes of SaaS startups.
We're talking about the challenges of equal ownership in a startup. How do you make big decisions with 3 partners when all of them have an equal stake? We'll also get into why defining your ideal customer profile, or ICP, is more important than just building an MVP, the struggles of scaling across different countries, and the harsh lessons that come when launching a SaaS business.
And of course, we can't ignore the growing tension between AI-driven automation and the increasing value of human services. As AI handles more, trust is deteriorating, and businesses are struggling to balance automation with human expertise.
Finally, we'll talk about lead generation, why so much of it is broken, and how to avoid the pitfalls of bad leads. Our guest today, Mick, has been through all of this firsthand. He's built, scaled, and learned some tough lessons along the way. Let's get into it. Mick, welcome to the Tech Panel.
Yeah, good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on board. And just before we kick things off, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what brought you to the show today?
Yeah, look, I'm just excited to be here. I've got a pretty crazy story on a personal level. Everyone calls me Mick, by the way. Thanks for that. I've got a really long, complicated name coming from Ukraine. I was raised in Italy. I was educated in Canada, and built my career in the United States and in Asia of the past. So a bit of a worldwide, child, if you will.
All right, there you go. I love a worldly man. I think we all do.
Yeah.
So how much time did you spend in Italy before you moved over?
I still have parents there, actually.
Oh, yeah.
They still live there. So yeah, I enjoy going back there and I love the culture and all that stuff. Yeah.
Me too.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I think most of my friends would call me very North American. I think because I grew up there and I went to school there and I was educated there. So even here in Asia, they think I've got a bit of a, North American accent.
I actually lived in Naples for about 4 years. What parts is your family from?
Well, we moved into Milan, so it was northern kind of territories. I've always wanted to go down south and spend some time in Sicily and stuff like that, but never got the opportunity. It was always the northern kind of areas. I did spend some time in Malta, which is really cool.
I love Malta. I always tell anyone, if you're ever going for a Europe trip, you don't realize it, but you need to be going to Malta. It's one of those beautiful places.
That a lot.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, it's like a Middle Eastern version of Europe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
Listen, if you're ever there, remember one key thing that you have to remember about Malta is that if you ever go to a bus stop and you ask, hey, what's the best way to get to Valletta? Their answer is all roads lead to Valletta.
But sorry, I sidetracked you there for a little bit.
Yeah, I know. We're not a tourism show.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely interesting, but we'll pivot back to that if we have a little bit more time. So again, so walk us through who you are, what you do, and again, what brought you to the show today for us.
Yeah, look, my name is Mick. I spent the last decade in helping in go-to-market roles, leading teams and building software as a service solutions, specifically in the space of observability applications and things of that nature. It's been a really great ride being able to work with different verticals, different customer bases, and really in the B2B space. And after a decade of doing that and being fairly successful, I had a bit of an itch to go and try to do something on my own. And I always joke about this because it's kind of relevant. But I missed the dot-com bubble. I missed the crypto bubble. And when I saw the AI bubble, I thought, I bring in my surfboard and ride that wave. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I feel like everyone's going to feel very similar to you in about 10 years and think, why didn't I just try building something in AI?
Yep.
I suppose the difference between the AI boom and the dot-com bubble and such is that the pace in which things are being developed is extraordinary. And the the comprehension level is very low. The barrier for entry, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The tech barrier for entry is very, very low for a lot of people.
Just
So anyone can do it.
the way the landscape of just AI in the past 6 months has already changed is it's insane. Like I read somewhere the other day that they're now training so AI can replicate your vocal cords, like already.
Yeah, well, it's been happening for a while, unfortunately.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's definitely terrifying.
Yeah.
I've beaten that horse a few times, but it seems like... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a bit of a even scary from a security perspective. Think about it. When your grandma calls asking for money, and you're like, yeah, sure, no problem, I'll help you out, and or vice versa. Your child is stuck somewhere in the middle of Indonesia, and they need for money. Yeah, for sure, I'll send you money. But what you don't realize, it could be an actual bad actor. That's what's getting scary. It's getting really realistic, and it's not even just audio. Video is getting pretty good as well. I don't have it right now, but you can have camera that can basically change the way that you can, present yourself.
I've seen some of those. As like your face can be natural, like you can just have a blank face and it will do all the smiling and everything for you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's disgusting.
It is.
I have no idea what value that provides to the human race.
I guess, if you didn't want like crow's feet around your eyes from smiling so much.
Just get over it. You're dying like everyone else in the world.
Just get Botox.
We're all dying as soon as we're born. We just need to be a little bit more comfortable with that. But anyways, we digress.
Yeah.
So you've obviously built and scaled teams across multiple regions. What's one of the bigger differences in the go-to-market strategies and execution between, say, US and Europe?
Yeah, look, I think for context, if you think about SaaS, and I'm not going to go into maybe we will at some point about the death of SaaS, given, by AI. But if you think about SaaS businesses and go-to-market strategy, think about it, US still holds the first spot in terms of like the revenue being generated. So if you think about most SaaS companies that are big enough, they'll generate 70% of the revenue out of US, North America, about 20% from Europe, and about 10% in Asia. Those numbers may vary depending on the type of software you are. So it's interesting because as someone who's worked in all these regions, every SaaS company will build a go-to-market strategy that's very America-centric. And then they would just basically copy and paste that into Europe and Asia. And I was one of those people who was basically transplanted from New York to Singapore. And I was bringing with me all of those same tools and methodologies into a market that is actually vastly different, the way that people operate and perceive and buy from people. So it was quite an interesting experience. And I think a lot of companies make that mistake. One of the interesting things about building a startup is you can actually kind of take that into consideration from the get-go and actually build upwards from that, being a global company. Because it's really challenging. Once you're set in place, you have like a go-to-market strategy that works well for America, it's hard to kind of go and say, well, Australia is different. They'll say to you that, no, they're the same. They buy this. No, they are. And so there's a bit of a contrast with, I think, some of these market strategies. So it's really important, I think, to, especially if you're a startup, but also a SaaS company, to modify the way your go-to-market strategy works for different regions.
Yeah. I'm so glad you raised that because I've personally experienced that firsthand. And it's a cancer on tech companies. They start off in the US, and just like you say, it pulls so much money because the market is obviously bigger, and they foolishly let it change their perception of believing that that's the only thing that really matters. And every other country just sort of has to figure out a way to operate in a way that the American market does. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Like these companies or other countries are never going to do that. Like we've worked in the UK with our company, and they're extremely diligent in the way that they vet systems. Sales processes are significantly longer. Australia, we work in, it's very relationship based. They don't want to buy it unless they know someone who's used it. And the US, they'll just sort of like buy it just to give it a crack.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Asia is very, is very channel driven, for example.
Yes,
people don't realize how you can't just go and sell software in the Philippines unless you have a channel ecosystem. I mean, that's kind of the way they work.
What are some of the key challenges? We're obviously talking very broad here about selling in all these various markets. What are some of the key challenges that you personally experienced expanding the companies across all the various countries?
Yeah, I mean, just a prime example. When I was, I built my career in the US, really much the New York style, direct to the point. Do you have a pain? Is it urgent? By now, figure out all those things and basically kind of get to a sale as quickly as possible. And when I landed in Singapore and I had to work with some of these cultures, or even Australia, where I've lived quite a fair bit of time,
Yeah.
you just can't rush the process, and you have to make it into a bit of a personal relationship, and who and how you're actually going to position that. I mean, the fundamentals are not different, right? We're still selling value. You're still trying to fix some kind of problem.
Yeah.
But I think the approach is very different, and I think I had to really relax a little bit in a sense, and also I think the biggest challenge is to US goes quarter by quarter and Asia goes by, whenever the moon aligns, or, if they feel like that day. And it's really difficult to then have to report to your CRO in the US going like, I think this deal may slip by a lot, but also could happen tomorrow.
Yep.
It's really hard to kind of predict that, which is interesting. And we'll talk about this, right? But the market has changed as well. I mean, the sales-driven process has fundamentally shifted in this new world of the new economy of AI. And I've gone through a big transition between software as a service selling to consumption-based selling. And that completely changed my perspective of how you sell software. And I think these big waves are also going to impact the way that you sell in different industries and different markets as well.
So I guess from there, with that being one of the big challenges going through the different regions on companies being able to cater to that particular region, what are some of the other common mistakes that SaaS companies make early on in their processes?
I think fundamentally it's the predictability, and look, it depends on which kind of model you sell SaaS software with. So you have to break it down. I think I've spent quite the majority of my career in the selling software as a service as a subscription-based business. But the world has fundamentally shifted into a consumption business. If you think about most of the tools you use today, you're paying a subscription for it. But imagine, a world where it's also how much value you get out of it, or how much you use the software, and so on and so forth. I think one of the interesting things is that's being a pretty big shift. And if you look at North American market, European market, maybe dating myself a little bit, but these are markets who have fundamentally worked on laptops for the majors. Like, there's more laptops being sold in North America than anywhere else in the world. Whereas if you look at how many mobile devices are being sold in anywhere else in the world, like Asia, they've got 3 devices per one person kind of thing. Even more so, I think now. Asia has completely skipped the laptop generation, if you will.
Yeah.
So if you're building a software company, the first thing you have to understand is they're not going to go to your website. They're going to go to your app. Super apps are a really big deal in Asia. And so different markets look at how you interact with software fairly differently, which changes fundamentally how you sell to those to those groups of people. And I think more interestingly, and because I live and breathe the space of AI, what if you remove the app or the laptop or the web interface altogether? How are you going to interact with some of these new software systems in the future? And I think it's going to be really through, it's a protocol called MCP. But effectively, I'm going to have my AI agent interact with your SaaS software. I don't care if it's mobile, all this stuff, like that doesn't really matter. I want to get to an outcome. So I think looking kind of forward is going to be quite an interesting, change in the way that we both market and sell SaaS solutions to these regions. And I think Asia is probably one of the best places to start with. I'll give an example here, and I'm spending quite a bit of time right now in Bali, and the amount of people who just interact not through websites, not through apps, just talking to each other on WhatsApp is incredible. And somehow businesses keeps moving forward.
Yep.
So if anybody listening to this is going to think about, I'm going to build a SaaS software, whatever, you have to realize that different markets are going to react completely different in the way that they interact with software.
Yeah, some of the markets in Asia are very peculiar in the way that they operate. You're right. WhatsApp or any other chatting tools are paramount in the way that you communicate. I know a lot of tech companies, they just don't get it. They want to use everything off the back of an email, send everyone an email. And these people aren't checking their emails all the time. They're chatting real time in WhatsApp. So it's a pace that tech companies and bigger, markets are not really used to. But yeah, I kind of internally chuckled when you said it's really good to sort of start off in the Asia market, when I was just thinking to myself, I feel like you should definitely be in the pros before you break into the Asia market. There's so many nuances to working in all the individual countries, especially in Southeast Asia. Like, I've used that example. A wide range of various countries, all of them have different languages, different sales approaches, and there's also problems with like corruption, which is a huge thing, bribery.
Yeah.
And if you don't really understand what you're doing before you get into it, you can quickly find yourself head over heels.
Yeah. Have you found
absolutely.
any of those putting like your own ventures like in towards that Asian region? Have you come across any of those issues?
100%. But and look, I've lived and breathed, in fairly regulated and complex markets. I mean, when you work with Europe, you have to have GDPR compliance. If you're in the US, depending on the type of work you do, you may have SOC 2, you may have so many other compliance as well. And in Australia, for example, data residency is a big issue still to this day, even though it's not very practical.
Yeah.
You look at Asia, though, then all of a sudden, a lot of that stuff really falls off the cliff. And while I think that is a big challenge, I also think there's a really big opportunity as well. And I've never been as excited as now to be targeting an Asia market in an Asia market first approach, because we have some amazing new tools that are going to make this a little bit, not, I would say easy, because in the world of sales, you're still selling to people. You have to have interactions and so on. Corruption is a big issue and all those things. But, with the new tooling available, I can actually speak 5 different languages, if you will, right? With AI and all those things. I can, before a meeting, I can prepare myself with a different cultural bias that I might have by just saying, hey, I'm having a meeting with this person. What are some things I should be careful about, not talk about? And I mean, we get to a point where AI is really helping us in how we interact with some of these things. So it's interesting. But most importantly for me, and I think in the business we're in right now, is the arbitrage opportunity. Now, arbitrage is something that's been potentially blacklisted from the verbiage, because it means crypto scams and all those other things. But if you think about arbitrage in its original days, it's like to be an arbiter, to basically figure out what's right, what's wrong, and actually understand. It's from a French word. And Asia is probably one of the best arbitrage opportunities in the world, because there's still a big gap between how you interact and the value you bring to the business to the outcomes. Because again, if you sell in a very regulated market, I mean, think about like all the SaaS solution, everything has to be compliant. All these things have to be put in place. And therefore, your choice between the software you buy is really about cost, maybe a couple little features, and so on and so forth. In an Asia market, there's just so many more aspects to it. It could be, so there's a lot more opportunity therefore to find value in between those two components. So it's really good to be able to sell in North American market as the biggest one, 70%, like I said before. But at the same time, it's so regulated and so fixed that you perhaps, if you're willing to take a little bit of that leap and look at the Asian market, you'll find that there's a lot of opportunities to find a gap in between the value and the opportunity that presents itself in front of you.
And how is AI changing the way that your business approaches its go-to-market strategy? What has been the biggest fundamental change that you're seeing?
I gotta be honest. So one of the things about building, we're currently building a startup. I'm lucky to be working with 2 amazing co-founders. We all bring to the table very unique skill sets and experiences, worldwide and technical, non-technical, and so on and so forth. But one of the things that's been kind of interesting is that AI allows you to build a MVP of a product extremely quickly. There's a couple of interesting things. I'm going to answer this question in a bit long form, but because there's a couple components, right? It's really easy to build an MVP and just, a prototype and get it to market extremely fast. I mean, there's so many solutions to get it out to market extremely fast and get it over the line. And it also means that everybody can do it. Like, in the .com era, you can go after an SAP and build, a Salesforce. You can go after some HR company and build, a much better version of it. And in this world, yeah, you could do all that, but it can happen within minutes almost. Like we can build prototypes and companies extremely fast to the point where we've gotten pretty good at it. But the fundamentals haven't changed, right? So you can build a prototype really fast, but can you go to market and actually sell it? Or do you have customers that are willing to buy it? And that's actually way harder to do. That hasn't changed. And actually, it's gotten worse. Because think about this. All your customers are now getting bombarded with automated AI-generated, customized emails, And so they all ignore that. So the sales actually has gone a little bit harder in that perspective, but building a prototype and launching something to market is extremely fast. So we've been actually building lots of different prototypes and retesting market very quickly until we really found, the initial customer profile. I think that's maybe the shift of how we build companies is no longer build an MVP and go to market with it. Is no, build the MVPs fast, figure out the ICP. That's the thing that's going to be really important and difficult to do.
Sorry, explain that acronym for listeners that are unfamiliar with that term.
Yeah. So an MVP is a minimal viable product, right? So it's basically you build a software solution, oftentimes they go to market also landing pages and all that. It is extremely fast, easy to do with AI today. I mean, we can literally do that really fast. But finding an ICP, which is initial customer profile, as in who are you going to sell and why, and what is the pain point you're trying to solve, is really, really difficult. Now, to bridge that gap and kind of what's been amazing in go-to-market for us has been that we can build an MVP really fast, but we can also build a go-to-market copy extremely fast. So what does that mean? Let's say we start with the problem scope. Then we figure out what are the type of clients we need to do. And we basically feed it into a generative AI model. And we start saying, okay, here's the ideas we have. Here's some experiences that we have. And you just feed this in almost like, general format and let AI actually build a business plan for you, a website, a product. And that's easy part, right? Mm-hmm. But being able to do that has been amazing from my perspective because it allows us to go to market really fast, test our idea, and really only focus in the ideas that actually make sense from an ICP perspective. Do we have clients that are willing to pay for this? Is solving a real problem? And so on and so forth. So some parts are becoming way easier. Some parts become harder. But I think that's where, old-fashioned selling and selling to people and relationships is becoming even more important in a generative AI and AI space than before.
I agree more. Yeah. People are going to trust less and less all the digital services that are available, the more robust AI becomes, just because you never know if it is an actual person that's sending anything across to you. And you're going to want that personal touch. How are you balancing that desire to AI everything that you have versus the need from your customers to have that personal touch?
This is a bit of an interesting question. I've looked at it from a couple lenses. I think the most interesting one, I think for some viewers may be a little bit on the nose, but it's a generational issue or generational opportunity, whichever way you look at it, right?
Shots fired.
Shots are fired.
Well, I give you an interesting example. I mean, I'm in sales, so I talk to a lot of people and I enjoy the interpersonal interaction. But if I look at, for example, my daughter and the world she's going to be growing up in, it's, and I see also the Gen Z and the way that they interact with technology. Try getting on a call with a Gen Z and talk to them. I mean, that's the good, interesting challenge. It's
I don't
all
understand.
through
You've called a Gen Z person?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, good luck with that. I mean, it's completely different. And I'm starting to become like, like my dad is like, oh, I don't understand this technology.
Yeah.
But
I know.
But if you look at it, the biggest market and the people who actually have the money is the millennials who are now becoming, more frustrated with. I mean, I'm in the business and I'm finding frustrating how fast it's moving and how difficult it is to be on top of things, right?
Yeah.
So I can imagine there's a big cohort of people who have built their careers, who have gone through all the battlefield of building businesses and so on, and now they're at the point where they're getting completely bombarded with this new AI technology to the point where it's like the best opportunity for anybody out there right now is go and build a personal relationship with those people. I think the value, so it's easy to do the automated interactions, and I think everybody's doing it, which I think is going to devalue general interactions and increase the value of interpersonal interactions, person-to-person conversations, so on and so forth, which is probably a good balancing act because, you look at the way that we used to sell software is like, call as many people as you can, or, bombard them with emails or messages on LinkedIn, just go big, wide on all of that. And I think technology is going to help us do that. But the moment that you actually have the attention of someone, that's when I think the interpersonal conversation has to start and build that relationship and really be a, P2P, person to person kind of relationship, and not, B2B, B2C, all those acronyms that are floating around.
I'm not a software developer. I work with an amazing team of devs, and I can only imagine the chaotic nature of trying to build a product that's ideal for all these various generations. It's got to be such a mess because I personally feel like, no disrespect to anyone, millennials are the best people alive today when it comes to technology. I feel like we're curious. We got in at the right time with the internet where all the cool things are being invented, and we got to test and trial everything. We experience viruses, so we're extremely sketchy. We don't trust anything naturally, and then right after that, we had Gen Z, which is, I don't know why. I thought the Gen Z people would be like the most professional workforce in the world when it came to technology, but a lot of them are more short attention span.
Very short.
Yeah. And then the worst one is Gen Alpha right now. You talk to any of them and most of them have no idea how to use even their iPhone.
Yeah.
And it blows your mind. Like, how do you not know how to use an iPhone?
Yeah.
You're born with it. You use it all day, every day.
And then what are they actually doing?
Yeah.
Like what are they? Are they just standing there holding it? Like, what are they doing?
I don't know. Like I regularly teach Gen Alpha people how to do things that I'm like, wait, Gen Z person taught me this. How do you not know this? Wait, what's happening? Where's the break? So like from a design perspective, it's got to be a nightmare to try to figure out.
That?
Yeah, how do you tune it in such a way? Because you probably want your target audience today to be millennials. Those are the people that are taking over the workforce, really intelligent and know how to use technology. And then, not to say they're not intelligent, so just really clued in with technology. The next generation that's coming in is like, I want the dumbed down version of technology. It's got to be real simple. Then,
do you know what I think it is? I think with the millennials, it's the curiosity behind it as well.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Like, I don't think the generations after that have that core curiosity of why does it do this? How does it do this? Like, they just want it to do it.
Yeah.
So I guess, trying to have a dev team to strategize and go across everything and make sure it's readable for all the different generations would just be a nightmare.
Yeah. And I guess I raised that because you said it's really important to have your target persona nailed down before you begin. How do you have a target persona in today's market? Like, how do you know what you want?
It's funny what we just said there. Maybe our customers are becoming Gen Alpha customers. And like when you talk to customers at the end of the day, they want an outcome. I mean, and I can relate to that as well. Like if you've got a pretty stressful job and you've got some, deliverables and things of that nature. I mean, do you really care, what kind of contracting, that software is, or, what feature functions? You want an outcome. You want to get it, I want to get an outcome and I want to get it done so I can go home to my family. So I think it's interesting. I haven't thought of it, but perhaps our customers are becoming more Gen Alpha than anyone else. Because I want an outcome too. Like if I get a new software now, I like to tinker, play around. I like to shop for different software, figure out the best solutions. But, at the end of the day, I catch myself going like, I spent like 3 hours researching this. I just need to like remove the background.
Yeah, see, I'm the other way. I don't want to know any of it. Just give me something that works.
What generation are you?
Look, it doesn't matter. Arvin. No, I'm Gen X.
You're Gen.
Just
Yeah.
like a year out of millennial.
Mm-hmm.
To be clear.
All right,
Yeah.
taking it.
Yeah.
And you're saying everyone's becoming Gen Alpha. I was just wondering. I'm sure I'm wrong here, but do we think maybe that's because the people that are responsible for sourcing technology are probably young employees? You know?
Yeah.
Is that-
Yeah.
Right? Like the people that make decisions are not really the ones that are vetting things, are they? They're just like, what do you think is the best
Sure.
one?
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's actually kind of a good point. Yeah, I mean, when
Oh,
when
hey.
selling, the sales 101 is always
Thank
about
you.
the medic, right? It's like understanding decision process, criteria, who's a champion, but most importantly, who's like the decision maker and who's got the purse, right?
Yeah.
And you don't get to those people initially. You start with maybe the intern who's like, yeah, I'm looking at all the AI solutions because I'm the only one who knows what AI is, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it probably is quite interesting, and that's kind of the shift also how you sell software. Is it B2B or is it B2C or is it product led or sales led? And I think it's shifting quite significantly. I mean, OpenAI didn't really have to go and have a sales team to tell you, hey, go use our software. Just everybody wants to use it, right? And
I'm coining it.
it.
Let's call it Gen selling.
Gen selling.
Just selling. That's a good one. Yeah.
It's time stamped.
Yeah, that's it.
We got this.
Trademark James Arvin. No. No, it's definitely an interesting one. I'll dig into that. Sorry, we now get viewer-led questions, and
Cool.
let's
Yep,
bring
you
one
got it.
in. There we go.
Dun,
All
dun,
right.
dun. Are you ready? It could be anything.
That's awesome. Actually.
All right, what is the weirdest or worst piece of business advice you've ever received?
Weirdest and the worst. That's a good question, actually. I think that's a hard one to answer because I think I probably will not answer that question to the way that person wanted me to answer it, but I'll give you the context of my thinking of that.
Mhm.
First, if you're building a business, the most important thing you should be doing is asking a lot of people all of their opinions.
Yep.
When I started out building, when I thought about building a startup, I thought I want to keep it secret. I'm not going to tell anyone. It's like build it to a certain level, and then boom, it's going to become the next Facebook, Google, whatnot, right? A completely wrong approach. What you should be doing is asking and telling everybody what you're working on, and you'll be surprised by a couple of things that will happen out of that. First, you will get some bad advice and weird advice. You're going to get some great advice. Actually, the best thing that you're going to get is somebody who says, hey, I know somebody doing something similar or in this space or who's building a competitor product. You should talk to them, and you should talk to them. We talk to our competitors. We talk to people who have invested in other companies. We've talked to so many different people. And so I actually think that there is no such thing as bad advice. Just get as much advice as you can get from as many different opinions and people as you can. Get your idea out there in as many people talking about it as you can, because ideas are cheap. Also, advice is cheap as well. I love giving advice, but hey, I'm unless you're like an investor who owns millions of dollars of share of a company, your advice is probably going to be throwaway unless you've got some very experience and so on and so forth. So I've gotten a lot of different advice that I disagreed with, but I think the answer to that question is I don't have a really good simple story. I've had many different things being said, but take in everything, don't discard it, just add it to your advice pool, and then build like a little bell curve of what kind of thing makes the most sense. I think the weirdest and worst advice can sometimes be the best eye-opening advice you're going to get, because everybody who tells you you're doing a good job or this is such a great idea, they're not invested in it. Get the one that tells you weird advice, because that's going to get thinking like, maybe a good example is like, why are you going after the Asia market? There's corruption. You're not going to make it. All this other stuff. Okay, hold on a second. Maybe that's a good point.
Yep.
But maybe I should adapt my thinking about that. Right? Who do you know there who could help me with that? If you think that's such a difficult thing, So yeah, I don't think I answered that directly, but what I will say is get all and every advice and just make a decision off of it, and
Yeah, no, that was great. That was great. Can I jump into the struggles with startups and funding them? So
Yeah.
yeah, so now you've experienced both fundraising and bootstrapping, is that correct? In
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
research?
I've
Okay.
gone through.
So
Yeah.
how did you and how do other founders come to that decision on which direction to go?
Look, I'll tell you. Again, I've had the luxury of just talking to people
Yeah.
and sharing my ideas. So the first and most important thing about funding and all that, and again, it goes back to my previous comment about telling what you're doing to everyone. Um, Tell to every VC. They'll tell you that, oh, there's this other company we're working on. We're not going to invest in you, or this is a bad idea. Talk to everyone. VC is not going to steal your idea and magically go and build it. Like, building something is way harder than talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing in the and all the stuff. So nobody is going to steal your idea. I mean, there's some exceptions to that, obviously, but um, go talk to as many as possible, and as many people as possible. But I was lucky enough that I talked to some people who got funding, and what came out of that. I've also talked to a whole bunch of people who bootstrapped their businesses.
Yep.
And I've kind of done both myself. So one of the things about getting a large chunk of money, it's great. I mean, you could put it on your LinkedIn. It's like, yeah, we've got $3 million of funding. Clearly, somebody believes in our idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, more likely than not, a lot of people who do get the big checks early on, pre-seed and so on, typically have either started businesses before or have great relationship with VC funding, or they have like customer zero that is basically almost funding that. And that's great. That's actually the really good place to be. And I think a lot of, entrepreneurs kind of look at that as being the model. But I've talked to a whole bunch of entrepreneurs who got that and then realized that, yeah, they got the funding, they got the money, everyone high-fiving them, but then they tested their idea in the market, the ICP, and all those customers who said, yes, if you build it, will come, start dissipating and disappearing, then it realized that the market has shifted fundamentally, and all of a sudden they need to pivot. And when you've got the $3 million worth of money, now you have some people to talk to and respond to and, explain your thinking. And so you can't on a whim say, I'm going to change direction of the company. You have to really convince them. You have to resell, your VC fund on why you're doing something. And so a lot of people don't talk about that as you get the funding, but you want to make some changes. All of a sudden you've lost all ability to steer the ship because you have, investors to talk to.
Yeah.
Having said that, there are some really good successful stories out of that. And, obviously, and I'll go back to the crux of all of this, which is the initial customer, really. But yeah, I think getting the funding is misleading. It means that you can't ship. On the other hand, you do have the bootstrapping part, which obviously not everybody can afford to do it, and it's difficult, not all of us have I hear all these stories like, oh yeah, we built this company in the basement. I was like, oh cool, your parents had a basement. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment and I was, sleeping on the couch. So that sounds great to have a basement to build a business out of, right? And also go to really big Ivy League schools. So not all of us have that ability. So bootstrapping is also not an easy thing to do. Having said that, with bootstrapping, it focuses you on just building just enough as quickly as you can to fill a customer need as well as you can, so you can get the revenue in. And the beauty of this is the approach that we started. So we've gone through a really great program. There's lots of out there like YC Combinator and stuff like that. We've gone through an Anthem program. I can say, I think it's this really great program. But the challenge is you really focus on trying to build the business first and not building the customer or solving the customer problem first. And so we started just doing it differently. We said, like, let's go and build as many minimal viable products as we can, test the market, try to get customers, get that initial customer to pay us for things. And we got some customers paying for some things, but they weren't like long lasting. They were not strong enough. The problem we were solving was not painful enough and not sticky enough. But what we realized in bootstrapping is that we can, on a whim, change completely the direction of the company, the go-to-market strategy, everything on a whim. And that in the world of AI, when anybody can build a company within a day, it's extremely important to have that. That's actually a superpower nowadays. right?
Yeah, that was actually going to be my follow-up is like with AI, having, you've really got to be bootstrapped so you have that flexibility to go, oh, it's changed again. We need to pivot.
Yep. Correct. So that's why actually we've completely changed our methodology and thinking is that we actually don't want funding right now because we'd rather build a customer base, get some revenue, and then we can ask for funding for expansion because it's very cheap to build stuff nowadays. It's really, really is. So you don't need that funding and signing a cap table that is unfortunately in most cases very much against you, right? The earlier you sign a cap table, the earlier you're now, basically in the hands of that cap table. You can do things, change things. Every next funding needs to be bigger than the previous one. You need legal team to gonna so that before you know it, before you open your first cap table in Australia, it's gonna cost you $50,000, right? Between all the legal fees and everything put in place. Whereas, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft are gonna give you 50 grand just for free to just start building stuff, right? So that's the big contrast is like go and start building things, test the market, but most important, just get paying customers. That's the hardest part. Building stuff is so crazy easy nowadays. It's not even funny.
You've raised this point a couple of times about the ICP being extremely important. How has the ICP changed for you and your business?
Yeah, it's interesting. I spent a long time thinking that I've got 10 years of experience in go-to-market and software as a service, specifically observability, and that, I know so many people in that market. What am I doing thinking outside of the box or looking at other kind of customers? I know observability so well. And I was really scared at the beginning of going outside of that pathway that's been laid out in front of me because the ICP for observability is something I know really well. I've spent most of my career in that. But when you're building a product and in this space, you gotta find a problem that needs to be solved, right? And that may sometimes come from the craziest places. One of the best, most inspiring stories I've heard of a startup that was started was just a friend of a friend who's asked by a dentist office to go and sit in because their office manager was unavailable or sick for a couple of weeks or whatnot, just to help him out. There's a dentist buddy asked to help him out. So he sat down and started working for this dentist for a couple of weeks because he had nothing else to do. He was a startup guy and all this stuff. And he figured out that the way that the processes that were built and the tools available for dentists were completely, out of touch with what's doable. And, he sat there for a couple of weeks, figured out a whole bunch of problems, and then built an amazing business that's now, multi-million ARR out of sitting in an office with a dentist and figuring it out. So the way that I look at ICP, right, is that find the problem first, right? And talk to the people, your initial customer who's got some gaps in knowledge or challenges, and then work your way backwards to how you solve that
it was
problem.
really good until we
And it
lost the
took me a
connection.
long time
Wait.
Squirrel.
Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Where we lost you, was you were just saying how out of touch the dentists were with what software capabilities existed on the market at that point in time.
And finding the problem. Yeah.
So this acquaintance of ours, he found that there's a massive gap because dentists don't care about technology, but they want to get things done, and and there's a lot of software out there was just not up to par to that, and it took a lot of manual effort, and so he basically revolutionized that space. Small little company, but the most important part about that story is the fact that your initial customer profile really comes from many different places, sometimes unexpected. And the best thing that a startup founder could do is go talk to as many people as they can and be open-minded to the problems and the space that could be available to them to actually go and figure out where the gaps in the industry are. I mean, some of the best ideas start like that. But I made the mistake myself of being so focus. I've got this B2B experience, I've got SaaS experience, and working with these large enterprises, and that I needed to really just focus on that little thing. Whereas there's so much opportunity out there by just talking to people, understanding what their challenges are.
Yeah.
Lead generation has been a bit of a black box for years. What's missing in this space? And what have you done to overcome that? Or what can you see that maybe AI can come in and help with that lead generation?
Yeah, look, I mean, I wouldn't say a black box. And if you think about like SaaS and the way that sales approach on B2B especially, it's fundamentally hasn't changed. It's really has been the same. It's you run a marketing campaign, people sort of click on something, reach out to me, then you have like a BDR or SDR team that calls them and so on and so forth. And what I've noticed in the market is just there's so many tools out there to make that part of the process even better, easier, and so on. I mean, there's great tools like Clay, there's like Apollo, there's like Lucia, all these augmentation solution to give you more information about the person so you can and automate and craft with AI a much better story about why they should talk to you and so on and so forth. But what I'm seeing is that has actually become so commoditized and so easy to do and everybody's doing it, that we're all getting just flooded with emails and messages. They're customized, sure, but I think the number I got is like with email or messaging is like 1 out of 100, and I think my personal opinion is those numbers are going down, and it's becoming okay, great, so much about me. It's actually kind of weird, like, why are
That's
you
so
sending
true.
me that stuff? So it's now becoming a little bit interesting. Well, again, I kind of go back to my thought process. If everybody's like running to the hill this way, right? Then the opportunity is, can we do it the other way? Why is nobody running this other way? And because it's becoming so easy to augment your client base, client list on your outreach and make it so customized and all that, and everybody's doing it, that it's losing its value. And I think people, and I guess it's generational, right? That's probably not going to apply to the next generation and how it works. And they may have very different way to interact and be reached out to. But if I look at kind of, even any kind of business you build from now to the millennial market or in those markets, you probably need to have a conversation or relationship with them. And that has not fundamentally changed. So the companies who are going to embrace actually having real conversations with real people, and if they can broker that conversation in a way that is human-like more so than automated, auto-generated, I think those are the companies that are going to be successful. This is actually kind of the gap that we found in the market when we've started our latest company called Crankshaft.ai. Is we've realized that there's so many people out there who actually want to pick up the phone and actually talk to a real person. But how do you broker that connection? Like, if you start talking to someone and they say, obviously you start with good conversations, say how's the weather and all this stuff, but then you get to know that person, you realize, I've got this house and I already paid for it. I'm thinking about investment property. I need to remortgage my house. It's like, oh, in a typical world conversation, you'd say, oh, I've got a friend of mine who's got a really good broker that can help you get a mortgage application, right? And then, that actually is really hard to kind of complete as a process, because then they have to connect you and all those other things. There's a massive opportunity with AI, not to go and call the person with AI to talk to them about that, is to actually connect the right people to the right conversation. Nobody's thinking about this because everybody's thinking about how to augment their leads, how to create custom emails, how to reach out, how to make better ads. All these go-to-market strategies are all focused on the automation with AI. We're focusing on the other one. It's like, how do we actually use AI to connect people? Imagine this, like, let AI do all the hard work of figuring out who to connect and connect two great people who have the right, things they want to talk about, and let them talk and actually buy from people, and especially the older generation. So that's the interesting thing that we found in the market that's kind of unique, is that everybody's too focused on one end of AI, and we're focused on using AI to connect people.
Okay, so with obviously the natural process or progression from a lead is then you go into the sales process.
Yeah.
What do you foresee changing in sales, say over the next even couple of years because of the way technology is currently going? Like, how do you see the general sales process changing?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to any salesperson, any SaaS companies today, and you ask them, what is the most frustrating part of your job? They'll tell you is to update my CRM.
Oh yeah, admin.
It's to, yeah, is to create that document so I can send it to my higher ups to show them how well I know the deal so that I can have some sort of confidence the deal is going to close at some point in time. Like a lot of their work is to do that, right? And how much as a percentage, if you ask honestly, and this is going to be really, direct to some salespeople out there, is how much time are you spending talking to customers versus how much time you're spending talking internally and building these things, right? And the answer is not going to surprise you, but it's going to upset you. Yeah. So what's beautiful about technology and AI is that it can remove a lot of that from you. You have this call on Zoom, automatically update CRM. Don't even waste any time on that. Based on the conversations, 12 conversations with the customers, just automatically build a deck on the status of the deal. Do that automatically. And what's great about that is all of a sudden the value of the salesperson goes up because now you're going to focus not on the administrative and all the other stuff. You're going to talk about, well, let me go and talk to the customer. I've got nothing else to do. I've already done all the stuff. Let me go talk to the customer more.
Yeah, work on that relationship.
Yeah. And also when you do go to, build that, when you talk to your bosses, instead of talking about the deal and the number updates, obviously those are important. It's like, well, I need some coaching. I need some advice. I'm trying these approaches. What are your thoughts? Actually, I may need you in that meeting with a customer. I'm struggling a little bit. You're elevating the conversation and the work about the people to people selling and removing a lot of the other stuff that's basically, I think, riddled the SaaS selling motion for years. The amount of trainings we've gone through on sales process and all that, while important, focuses too much on getting that stuff done and not enough to actually talk to customers. And that's, to me, is a light bulb moment, I guess, or it should have been like this from the start. We've made our job harder for no reason whatsoever.
I think that light bulb, that aha moment is, if people haven't got to it already, they are getting there very shortly. Because I know we've internally had exactly the same discussion in regards to CRM and just general admin and stuff like that, like within my role. So it's something that, like, I was assuming you were going to say that as a reply, but I was interested that is where you were going to go. So
yeah, I automate everything. It's now like my most important part is talking to customers and learning what their problems are.
I think the problem we're all going to face, though, is like we all dream of having automation and, with our CRM solutions out there, but it doesn't feel like any of the tools truly provide automating functionality yet. Many of them provide the same stuff. Like what I'm seeing out in the market today is mostly in line of like, it'll take notes from whatever meeting you had and it'll paste it into your CRM for you, but it doesn't know which fields.
Yeah, it's not populating it in the correct places.
That's exactly right. So you still got a very human element that's required to put in a lot of time, and the risk still exists if the human's the person putting it in and the quality of the data is still limited to that very individual person in the way that they manage the process.
Yeah, and I think that's because we treat CRMs. There's so many CRMs out there too, but we treat CRMs as, think about it, CRM is just a database, with fields and things like that. Like this, no more difficult. Then, there's a big object, I suppose, if the best way to describe it, because I'm a programmer, object oriented. But the object could be, the customer, it could be the company, and there's a hierarchy to it and all that stuff. But we're basically just, throwing that into, database. And if you think about it, and if you just fundamentally, how many of those fields are being read by your leadership all the time? They end up somehow in some kind of dashboard at the end of the day. But there's only one question that anybody really cares about. A few questions, but very direct questions like, when is the deal going to close? How much is the deal worth? Are there any risks? And are there some things we should be doing that? What are the next steps? Like, really, that's fundamentally what everybody asks. But we put all this last contact, all this stuff, and that's all just additional information to make ourselves feel better that we have more understanding of the deal than we do. And I think with the way that Generative AI is now starting to write code for us, and the way that it stores information in vector databases is actually more realistic to how we interact with people, right? It should be an object of that relationship, right? And it should be an object you can ask questions to, as opposed to be a database. So, for example, hey, and I think about agentic kind of systems. If you want to update on the deal, you don't want to go and read the latest notes. You want to actually ask deal, hey, what's the state of the deal? And it should answer you, well, last conversation you had is this. You haven't really asked for who's the decision maker. Potentially the next step should be this. Imagine having a conversation with your deal as opposed to going into a system and trying to build dashboards and all this other stuff.
That would be
ultimately
amazing.
The outcome. Yeah, ultimately is the outcome that we're all chasing, and I think we're getting there. I mean, I'm seeing this already with the way I use CRM and how my agents update the data. I spend less time in those areas, and I interact with my data, if that makes sense. I ask questions to the data. How we build our go-to-market strategy is similar. We feed a whole bunch of things that we believe are things we should do and how we understand the market and so on. And then we ask the data the question, hey, how should we position this on LinkedIn based on this new article from this competitor? I mean, that's the level we're getting at. And that's, I think, fundamentally is going to change how we interact with these CRM systems.
Yep. So many of these things just feel like AI is the exact solution that can fix all of these problems. But for whatever reason, I'm not seeing many people building these solutions.
Yeah, why is that?
Yeah. I don't have an answer for you, but I feel like every single sales company needs pretty much the exact same thing. Like you said, someone wants to be able to just ask a question. Is there any outstanding steps on this deal that someone did not document? Oh, there are. Which ones have not been actioned? When were they required by us? You know what I mean? Like, no one has the ability to do that. It's all so human dependent. And that's the riskiest part of any business, is having one person responsible for like 15, 20 plus deals. Like, I can't even manage 10, 15 relationships, let alone 15, 20 deals. Constantly change every single month.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It is a bit of a headache.
It is a headache.
Yeah, it is. It is. What do you think is going to be probably the most terrifying thing for businesses to overcome when it gets to the point that AI is so integrated in our day-to-day life? I mean, I guess security, is always going to be a major issue. But aside from that, what do you think is something that's going to be, that they're going to have to be on the ball about to keep things rolling and not sort of get buried under the fear of what might happen?
I think two aspects. I mean, security is definitely a big issue. But when I first heard you ask the question, I think my first initial reaction came to, what is the risk of over leveraging AI in an enterprise today? Yep. And if I look at, if you look at the go-to-market strategies and everything and everything that's going on right now, because it's so easy to generate content, and you can start seeing it's becoming, I don't know, like averaged out or diluted. Yeah. It's so easy. I mean, I must admit, like, I try really hard that any post I make, I let AI kind of fix the grammar and kind of just, the way that the article is being put out. But I'm very focused on making sure the ideas are mine. And most importantly, the examples are mine, because AI cannot generate the examples based on my experience and so on. But what I'm seeing is actually a lot of people don't even bother with that. And so over-reliance on AI is diluting, both the message and so on. And what's scary is, these models, right? Who is the arbiter of what data was used to train it? And it's actually really hard to understand the source of the data and so on. Once you have an actual model that you're leveraging, it's really hard to understand the bias of the model. And so I think the biggest risk is over reliance and therefore dilution of the messaging. And, I give you a super kind of back to the example you said about security. There's this post I saw online of this, I don't know who it was, but you probably Google it or it's on X or something. This person was not very technical, said, "Oh, I don't understand why more people are not building apps with AI. It's so simple. I did it within 5 minutes and I built da 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 da." And then the next post of it was like, "Okay, I had to take it down because I was hacked like 5 different ways because the code generated generically and you still require skills to secure it, enterprise grade it, do all these other things, and AI can help you do that, but you still have to have the knowledge and know-how of that." And I think if we're over reliant on the diluted outcome, which was being generated, and you don't put guardrails and controls around that, you're not just exposing yourself to a security problem, but also you're diluting your messaging as well. And if you're over reliant to that, where are the novel ideas? Where are the novel thoughts and examples? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. The only way that I see to defend myself in my small little world of like writing articles is by, hey, just put personal stories and examples. And I think that's going to differentiate myself, which again, it goes back to the point of don't over rely on AI technology. Get it to get you to the point where you can have a human to human conversation. That's really the outcome. And spend more time in that human to human, because AI is not going to replace that anytime soon. All these talks about AGI, yeah, it probably will come and it's going to be pretty scary, but yeah, I don't know. I think when it does come, people will start wanting to have real conversations more often than not.
Oh, 100%. I'm equally excited as I am terrified about the future.
Well, look, let's pivot. I think we've dug quite a bit into the AI side of things, but I'm a bit interested in, and what we haven't really tackled too much, is your experiences of creating multiple companies, managing various stakeholders, pride, the ego, and such. So maybe let's change pace. And would you mind expanding a bit about like some of the harder lessons you've had to learn breaking into new industries and working with new people?
Oh yeah, ouch. Um, yeah, I think you said the egos. I must admit, kind of looking back at my career and in corporate and all that, I think it's gonna some people they're gonna laugh about this because they're probably sitting in a job they hate, their boss they don't like, with bureaucracy and corporate ladder BS that kind of goes with that and all that. And I've been through that. I was there, all of the above. And then when you're finding yourself a bit on your own, I've got really great co-founders, but sometimes it's pretty lonely either way, right? When you find yourself and starting to build a business and all that, it becomes extremely lonely really quickly. And you start appreciating that while not perfect, corporate stuff can actually be kind of like a comforting place. You can go and, talk to someone about how crappy your job is. The only person who knows how crappy your job is me now, right? And in a certain sense, right? I'm the owner and the buck stops with me. And so it's been a humbling experience because all of a sudden you are, you're building now relationships from scratch. You're trying to rebuild a brand or a market and so on. So I gotta admit, it's actually really, really hard, and you make a lot of mistakes. And I think the most scariest part is that some relationships that you used to have that you thought you can bank on, they're potentially going to disappoint you quite significantly. But then you'll find random people coming out of the woodwork just wanting to help you that you never expected to, or even, really, really shout for help just randomly. It's a humbling experience building your business where you can, it's hard.
Yeah.
So anybody of your listeners who is in a corporate job that they hate for whatever reason, remember when you try, the grass is not much greener when you're trying to build everything from scratch, trying to forge new relationships and all, and be disappointed by people who you thought were friends. That's really hard. Yeah, maybe I don't know if I answered your question, but that's kind of what came to mind when you asked that.
I think anyone can empathize with you that's gone to start a business. I try to dig into this with some people, and it's funny. I get people like yourself that are like, it can be real hard. And then sometimes you ask others and they're like, I think you need to reframe. And they just completely avoid any of the pain and suffering that they've gone through. And I'm just like, just talk to us. Like, it's real. We're in a safe space. But I think you're in a unique position right now because you're building something that is your baby. It's something that you very likely love, I'm assuming. Not every baby is loved out
I
there.
wouldn't do it otherwise.
But you're building a baby, for lack of a better word, with someone that's not your spouse. You know what I mean? All three of you are like, I don't know if you're all men, but let's just assume you are. There's three dads in the room right now, and I imagine each one of them thinks that they have the best idea of how this baby should be raised. How do you navigate those turbulent waters?
Yeah, some people, I don't know, I don't want to call it luck because I put a lot of effort into when I was in my corporate jobs. I held leadership roles at director, senior director level, and one of my biggest and most important contribution was in how the methodology, but also the execution of how we hire great people. And I've always looked for two very key criteria, which are criteria that I live by, and also look for other people who are in my kind of group, and they're called humble swagger. And what it means is I surround myself with people who are humble enough to understand all the things they don't understand, which leads to curiosity, which leads to people who like to tinker and discover, but also people who have swagger. That means that they have certain skills that they're really good at and that they can share and you can learn from. And so when you're just looking at like just purely those two aspects, that's how I built all my teams. And I'm super proud of the teams I've built and so on. When looking for co-founders, I actually made a whole bunch of mistakes initially. And because I wasn't following my own rule, like I built this system. It goes beyond the homo swagger, and there's a whole bunch of other criterias, character and, and so on. And, it's not just an interview process. Actually, there's a lot more characteristics to who you hire and why. But I didn't apply the same rule sets initially to my co-founders that I did when I built those teams. And then when I got smacked in the face with reality, it's like, why am I doing this wrong? I build a system. So when I applied that, then I very specifically would only choose to work with people who fall within the realm of what I think are the criteria that I think is really important to be around. That doesn't mean that you hire people you agree with or are the same as you, by the way, right? Actually, quite the opposite. You want to find the most important thing, no matter if it's somebody you hire or somebody who you work for or who you choose to be your partner and personal life or even, professional life, find people who have something that you can learn from them, right? But also know that they're vulnerable enough to understand that you can help them as well. And I think that balance is what's going to help it. I don't have all the answers, neither does anybody else. And so, look, there are some hard decisions that need to be made, and sometimes we have disagreements how to do it. But first, you look at it objectively, then you kind of hash it out with who does what. But one of the easiest trick that I always say is that if you have a massive disagreement with someone, right? If I want to take the company this way or you want to do it this way, and usually they can't be that big because that's fundamental. You build two companies. I mean, look at Sam Altman and what happened with OpenAI. But if you have certain things that you think that I'm really passionate about doing this versus something else, then transfer ownership to that and make it an experiment. Okay? If you feel so strongly that this is the way that we should be doing it, let's carve it out as an experiment. You own it, you test it, you try the market with it, and you own both the success or failure of it. And, we let you do it, right? If that's really that important to you. And then come to, an objective solution. Like, look at the metrics. Has it worked? Has it not worked? And if you're objective about certain things, these kind of things can actually work themselves out into potentially building a brand new business that's even better. So I got to say, I'm lucky that I'm surrounded myself with extremely good co-founders who share my same values, who bring to the table very different skill sets, who are humble swagger people. But, in any time we have a disagreement, we just kind of work it out. I don't know if it's no one was thinking about, but I think that's the compromise is if you have something that you want to do different, go and make an experiment out of it and let the data show you. right? That's I feel, or I think, or there should not be adjectives in the business.
Yeah.
Go test it.
How well do you personally manage backing a decision that you didn't agree with because it wasn't yours and it goes against your intuition, your gut, but you've got to back it because, again, the company made a decision?
Yeah, it goes back to like, I think you have to. There's so many parallels. I think you said at the beginning. You kind of built a bit of a parallel between personal relationships and professional relationships, and the fact of the matter is, you spend more time at work than you do with your personal relationships, right? So it tend to become kind of like very personal. Um, I think you have to have trust and respect for people, and that at a certain point you have to trust and respect the person. And if it's not the decision that you think is the right decision, just trust and respect them, that if you do choose to follow that decision, that now you commit to being part of the decision. The worst thing you could do is, I think the best way to describe it is not in a professional world, but imagine if it's your wife or husband or partner, and you decided that you're going to go in this one direction, and then you go talk to your friends and say bad things. So like, that actually is not conclusive to you being successful, because you have chosen to be a partner in crime and in life. And so if you make a decision together, just stick to it. But when it bring it back, because this doesn't work in personal life, especially when I use data and numbers, that usually flies out the window with my wife. But when it comes to business, just level set back to objective metrics, right? Whatever decision you make, assign some KPIs to it or OKRs and measure them, and stick with the person. Don't stick with the idea, right? Because ideas come and go. You can measure the success or failure of them. And if it fails, if it succeeds, respect the person. Just find that, that is the most important thing. And once you do that, then yeah, this idea, I'm not supportive of it, but hey, I respect the person. I've agreed that we're going to go down this direction. Let's do it. I'm going to put 100% into it. I'll support it. Let the numbers speak for themselves. And if it's successful, great. If it's not successful, well, maybe my idea is going to be successful next. And then you have built that trust and respect to this person, that when it comes to you, that you get the same trust and respect. Because, people always think about these really big decisions that are one-off. Actually, most businesses have thousands of decisions need to be made and compromises in all of those. So trust and respect the people around you. You're not going to have all your decisions go your way. Some of them are, some of them don't, but expect the same in return. So make the decisions in a respectful way, and then let the data talk to you. No, most people eventually will come down to the data. Look, we tried this. The numbers are showing it's not working. We need to do something else, right? But it's really easy to lose trust and respect. And once you lose it, nothing else matters. And it's earned, and it takes time. And so that's my advice to anybody, is just, fall back to data. But if a decision is being made, trust and respect the person, and go with them.
Yeah. I love the trust and respect the person. I'm personally trying to adapt to some advice that I've taken from, I think it was Steve Jobs. I was very young, and a student had asked him when he was a guest speaker somewhere, what's the key lesson you took? And he said something along the lines of, essentially the gist of it was, whatever happened immediately, I don't take such a strong consideration and let that impact my long-term view of people. You've got to back people in a business.
Yeah.
Right? You've picked them for a reason. Mistakes are going to be made, but you've just got to trust them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are you doing? I guess it's kind of like what you said before with your partner, you're in a long-term relationship with someone, you got to trust him. Otherwise, what are you doing? Yeah.
And you're not perfect either. I mean, you're going to make silly, things, and you want the partner to also back you up. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. We are coming towards the end. Would you like to do the wrap question?
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. I don't have it.
Oh, I got it. So one of our favorite questions we love asking all of our guest speakers is, is there a particular piece of technology that comes to mind that if you were to speak to someone that was either thinking of starting their own business or just in everyday life, please don't say ChatGPT, as amazing as it is, that you're just like, whatever you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it without this.
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm gonna go against the grain, yeah, because it's so easy. Because I do think that obviously the way that AI and agentic frameworks are going, it's like it's fundamentally changing um, a lot of the things and how efficient I get and all that. So I'm gonna go against the grain, and it's probably gonna be the theme of some of the things I said before. It's the most important thing is person to person communication, not technology. And we need to go back to that. I think there's going to be so much going on in this marketplace. I'm super excited about VR and all these other technologies going to come along, and it's going to revolutionize a lot of different things. But when I look at my daughter and I'm thinking to myself, I hope she can learn and, grow up being capable to interact well with people, right? Technology has gotten so good that so many problems are being solved left, right, and center. But let's not forget about the people-to-people connection. I think that's to me the most important thing that everybody should probably take an active effort in doing more of.
Okay.
Yep, I love that.
Read less text.
Respectfully, Mick, because it is a tech show, is there a piece of technology though?
I don't know.
This is the difference between a male and a female. I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that. Arvin's like, what about the tech?
We came here to get a job done. Mick.
Well, I mean, yeah. It's hard for me to say because there's the obvious answer to that. But look, if I look at any piece of tech that I can't live without, I mean, today it's certainly my phone, and in Asia it's definitely my phone. So that's your tech answer. But I think to a tech show, I will say is the non-tech things.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll take it. We'll take
Fair.
it.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay, you have been brilliant. Thank you so much, Mick, for joining us.
Do you want to take a moment to plug yourself?
Oh,
Where
yeah,
can people
do that.
find you, or what are the products that you're working with right now?
Yeah, look, we're just about to do a public launch of Crankshaft.ai. And what we're really doing is we're helping call centers and agents connect through a system that makes it more transparent and trusted to be able to connect live calls, like live people, to the right people so they can have a real valuable conversation and help them solve problems. So we're really excited about this. We're going to be launching very soon. So if you look at Crankshaft.ai, still a couple of work in progress. But if you're a call center, we'd love to talk to you. And if you're an agent who is looking for live transfers, you should definitely talk to us. I think we've got an amazing technology and a great team to back it. So yeah, thanks.
Mick, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thanks so much. It's been extremely insightful. And I think we all learned something today.
Definitely.
It was
Fun, yeah.
Again, pleasure having you on board. And I think it would be really nice to have you on another time a little bit later on down the road.
Yeah, I love this. This is really fun.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mick.
Have a wonderful day, mate. Cheers.
No worries.
Megan, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning into the Tech Panel. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected. A big thank you to our major sponsor, Codeworthy, for powering today's episode. And join us again on the next episode of the Tech Panel, where tech minds meet.